Hey guys, how y'all doing? I'm here to give you guys a recap on Fate's Day Night movie Heaven's Feel Part 1, Presage Flower. Now, this movie right here, I did say I tell you guys that I was gonna watch it, but I had my doubts about it because I thought the movie might be somewhere else and it may not be a location I might be able to reach, but apparently there was one nearby, but it took me about an hour, 30-minute drive and about like an hour to get back here. Watched the movie. I watched it around 8:30 p.m., which is on the 18th of November, which is many hours from now, if anything. And this movie was pretty interesting, very very slick and pretty nice. Now I'll let you guys know right now ahead of time is that this recap I'm doing right now might be a little disorganized because I remember a lot of scenes, especially when there were some important ones that I decided to keep my mind in about. It might be a little disorganized, but I will do the best I can to try to fit it all together. So if anything else, let's go. We have to that Shiro was just living out his life apparently and trying to follow the same path as Kiritsugu does apparently. That is shown during the movie, of course. He's trying to figure out how to become a hero of justice, and he's been working towards that goal. Of course, throughout that time when he's working towards that goal, he's just having his daily school life, etc. And of course, he does get a visit from a young girl named Sakura, and she ends up having to visit him often, like every other day, and seems to enjoy having to hang out around him, and that is shown during the movie. Of course, during the movie, of course, eventually Shiro's life will start to have a change as he gets involved with something called the Holy Grail War. Of course, in other cases, there's this little girl who apparently appears in front of him many times, and we all know who that is. Unless you watch the other Fate series, etc., you will know who that little girl is, and tells him, you better summon your servant soon or you will die. Of course, Shiro will be involved with the Holy Grail War after he saw two servants fight, after Shinji decides to ask Shiro to clean up the archery club room, apparently. But all clubs gets ended early or stops for a while because of certain incidences happening in Fuyuki City. And of course, we do know that what's happening in Fuyuki City. Of course, like I said, going back to where Shiro witnesses two servants fighting, which is Archer and Lancer, Shiro gotten fatally injured apparently, but gets saved by one person, obviously. And we all know who that is. And apparently we get a little scene skimmering or skimming of some scenes where Shiro almost gotten killed by Lancer again in the second encounter because Lancer didn't kill him, and then Shiro summons Saber unknowingly, and then Saber fights off Lancer, and Saber ends up fighting Archer in the end, and of course the fight stops there, and Rin decides to bring Shiro to go see Kotomine Kire. Of course, after Shiro maybe wanted to be out of the war, we have to hear that Kotomine Kira gave him some information what happened 10 years ago, not to mention being involved with the Holy Grail War, and reminding Shiro of what happened to him as a kid. Well, not directly, but indirectly about what happened to Fuyuki City 10 years ago, or something like that. Of course, this was, after Shiro hearing about this information, he changes his mind and decides to be part of the Holy Grail War. But of course, after they went outside the church, etc., and have a little visitor from someone impatient, apparently she introduced herself as Eliasville von Einsburn or something, and decides to go combat to combat against him with servant to servant. Of course, Shiro's servant Saber does do her best to try to hold off against her Eliasville's servant, but apparently, because of the brutal strength that servant has, along with its weapon of choice, etc., it seemed to me Saber did not stand a chance and was close to getting killed. But Shiro pushes her out of the way and takes the fatal blow, which I go this guy is really crazy, obviously. And of course, Ilya, after seeing what he's done, decides to like brush him off and says, "Whatever, you're not even worth my time," and just left. And after what just happened here and there, we have to it that Saber and Shireen decides to tend to his injuries, but it looks like he was fine. Apparently, maybe because of the contract between Cheryl and Saber is what saved him, apparently. But we don't really know if that is the case. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you Fate Stay Night watchers, along with visual novel players, will understand the reason why behind that. Of course, Shiro and Saber decides to explore a bit and have a little talk about a couple things here and there. Eventually, we have to it that Shiro and Saber, of course, ends up finding someone innocent and is being a victim to a servant called Ryder, and that's where Shinji comes into play apparently, and we don't really know what his goal is, but all I know is like Saber does combat Ryder and effortlessly defeats her. Like Ryder tries to like use her chain against her, but Saber takes advantage of that, grabs it, throws her down, pulls it to her, and hits her. And apparently Shinji tries to get Ryder to stand up, but things are not looking so well. And after Ryder disappears, etc., Zoken does make an appearance second time at the scene to talk to Shiro and Shinji, and he ends up disappearing after that in a certain like alleyway or something. But we all know how he disappeared anyway. Aside from that, we also see to it that Shiro himself decides to like bring and help let's see here, the archery club president of the archery club to the church, and apparently after healing her up, etc., we have to it that that Kotomi and Kira decides to have a little talk with Shiro about what happened in the Fourth Holy Grail War and who was participated and who actually almost won it in the end. And of course, like after being revealed about Kiritsugu Emiya, etc., and of course Kotomi and Kira being involved with having to combat him in the Fourth Holy Grail War, we have to it that Shiro has a little small talk with Saber, and Saber explaining like that Kiritsugu Emiya was also her master in the previous Holy Grail War. And after much talk here and there involving the Fourth Holy Grail War in a simple sentence, we have to it that Shiro and Saber decide to continue their partnership and go on with the Holy Grail War. After much incidents of what's been happening here and there, Shiro decides to like have Sakura stay at his home for a bit after like he sees an injury on her and asking Rin for advice eventually. Of course, we have to it that that after that incident, we have to it that that one servant just gotten killed recently in this scene, and apparently ends up killing Castor and Castor's master. Apparently, Assassin told Castor to use her noble phantasm on herself to save her master, but that didn't come out so well, and Assassin just pierces her neck and then ends up killing her master anyway. That was just one scene. And then, of course, certain incidents end up showing up later after what's been happening here and there, especially with Shorichiro's master being dead. Of course, Rin and Shiro does talk about that and decides to partner up for the time being and put a ceasefire on each other. Of course, Archer was against this idea because like this mage is not going to come in handy, and Shiro did not freaking like the way how he said it, but Archer's like, am I lying about it though? But yeah. Of course, there is another fight scene, which I don't know when it took place in the movie, but it does. I'm pretty sure it did take place in this movie anyway. Maybe somewhere in the middle, or maybe after that 1 hour time limit. I don't know. But, of course, Lancer does take on Assassin, the one that killed Castor and Castor's master, and possibly another servant too. And apparently, Lancer seems to be having the advantage on him. Like, nothing can really touch him, and Assassin's attacks are not working so well. But, as the usual, I was suspecting Assassin to place him into a trap, or bring him to a trap, and I was correct on that. Apparently, Lancer was brought into a trap, and we had to it that Lancer was being attacked by these red and black ribbon-like things after him, and apparently Lancer does have a small disadvantage, and this is where Assassin reveals his noble phantasm, which is Zambia or Zambaya or Bina. I don't know how you say it. Apparently, somehow Assassin, when he uses his noble phantasm, all he had to do is touch where the servant's heart is at, and somehow it's in his hands, and the moment he crushes it, he kills it. And of course, Lancer was close to stopping him from doing that, but it was too late. Lancer was defeated and later on gets dragged into the watery abyss by the red ribbon thing, apparently. And that's where that other fight happened. Apparently, after much incidences happening here and there and trying to figure out what to do next for the time being, we see to it that Rin and Shiro decides to team up and meet at a certain location tonight after what's been happening. Of course, I'm pretty sure there's this scene that happened beforehand where Sakura and Shiro does talk with each other and eventually start to have a bonding moment where Shiro explains his past, etc., and why he continues wanting to become some kind of hero of justice. Of course, after that, we have to it that Sakura asks Shiro, if I become a bad person, would you forgive me? And Shiro's like, no, I would not forgive you. I admonish you. I'd be more strict with you than anyone else. And Sakura says, thank goodness for that. And she decides to go to bed after confirming a couple things. I'm pretty sure after that scene, we have to that Shiro and Rin decides to go after someone because apparently there's been some crazy incidences happening. And we see to it that Zoken made his appearance and somehow has Caster, who apparently was supposed to be dead, is fighting against Saber and Archer. And Saber was very close to getting herself stabbed apparently because Archer on the other, if it wasn't for Archer interfering for the last minute or last second, Saber would have her contract with Shiro as a master be cut off completely. But apparently their fight gets interrupted by something, and later on this is called, or is known to be called, a shadow, to my surprise. And I decided to call that a shadow too, because the way how it's black and it's red or something, it seems to be a little suspicious. Of course, Shiro does take a little injury from it, but received no fatal injuries. Maybe he got knocked out for a little bit, lost unconscious, and went awake. Of course, after that incident, Saber and Shiro decides to go home, and of course things are still looking pretty bad, etc. Of course, it seems like to me every other night it seems like Sakura is getting a little having some health issues. Although I may have an idea or clue about it, it's nothing to be 100% confirmed, etc. But aside from that, we have to it that after Shiro gets a call from Kotomini Kira at this certain restaurant shop, Kotomini Kira gives him some information involving about what's been happening lately, especially when I think the shadow is involved with many other people getting hurt or possibly injured. After that, Shiro on the other hand gets into a small talk with Rin Tosaka eventually, and Tosaka plans to go to the Mato's residence and check out what the heck is going on. As for Shiro himself, he decides to go stop the shadow because he cannot just stand around and sit here and do nothing. I think there was a scene beforehand where Shinji does come to Shiro's house and these two almost got into a scuffle because Shinji slapped his sister or injured her face, and Shiro was really close and wanted to beat him up for that. And I'm thinking in my mind, you better beat his butt up, but the fight didn't come out to that point where Sakura just tells Shinji, okay, just stop. I'll listen to what you have to say. Just stop, okay? Etc. That was a scene beforehand, I think, before Shiro had a little small talk with Kotomini Kira, etc. I'm pretty sure you guys get the point of what I'm saying at if you watch the movie, or visual novel players may get the idea. But aside from that, going off to where Tosaka and Shiro decides to take action what they're going to do. Tosaka decides to go maybe raid the Mato residence to figure out what's going on. As for Shiro, he decides to go after the shadow that's been causing major problems and turns for other innocent lives. And they do go to this Ryodo temple, which apparently that's where Caster, and I'm pretty sure Caster's master was at, formerly. We have to it that they were brought into a trap. Of course, Saber takes on Assassin, and Shiro takes on Zoken, which does not turn out so well for him. As for Saber, she pretty much got into a disadvantage after being attacked by the Shadow again. And apparently, Assassin took advantage of this and was about to use his Noble Phantasm again and about to grab her heart. But apparently, Saber decides to be consumed by the Shadow, I believe, and not have anything to do with it. Eventually, of course, Shiro tries to summon Saber to his assistance, but his command spells disappear, and that became very bad. And Shiro, on the other hand, tries to take on Zoken himself, but gets interrupted by Assassin. And it looks like to me, Saber, on the other hand, is no longer a servant to Shiro, which is a bad thing. I just go what the hell just happened? Really, I just went what the hell just happened? And we see to it that Assassin was about to kill Shiro, but somehow the Rider Servant came out of nowhere and saved Shiro from being killed and managed to drive off Assassin eventually. Shiro was about to combat Rider, but Rider decides to leave and see that he's okay, etc., and left. And then we get to a scene with Shiro trying to call out Saber and end up seeing the Shadow in front of him again, but apparently it disappeared out of his sight eventually. And we see to it that there was a scene with Saber that's possibly inside the grill, and that's what Saber tries to swim towards that grill because that's what she was trying to go for. But apparently a voice that's similar to her says, just leave it. There's no point for you to get over there. And pretty much this upsets Saber so much that she turns around and says, who are you trying to stop me? And realizes and looks at that person that looks like a different alternate to herself and says, who do you think I am? I'm you in a certain way. And then it cuts off there. I'm thinking in my mind, what the hell, dude? Holy crack-a-lack. And we see to it that Shiro does make it back home and makes it back home, but pretty much injured after his fight with Zoken. Sakura was waiting for him the entire time, waiting out in the snow with her umbrella, etc., and says, Senpai, you have to take care of yourself. You gotta stop hurting yourself, as Sakura told Shiro. Shiro, on the other hand, understands that, etc., and says, yeah, I understand. I'm back. So, although there was one scene with Tosaka Rin and Archer raiding or managed bypassing the Mato's residence and finds a training room which is filled with nothing more than bugs and maggots. Of course, there was some scenes about that too in the movie. It was pretty disgusting and scary, honestly. I was like, what the hell, dude? Etc. So, of course the movie does end off with Shiro asking himself, how do I become a hero of justice? Etc. And it ends off there, and I was kind of screaming out in agony, saying that I want more. This movie right here was really, really crazy. I mean, so different from far-fetched from the other roster, how it started, etc. Even though it's a movie series, it's supposed to be a little bit different. But the way how I see it, how it went out in this movie was pretty intense and crazy. And I let you all know that I do not know the Heaven's Feel route fully. I will tell you the truth, though. I did spoil myself with some scenes here and there happening. What's going to be happening eventually in the movie series, and I did spoil myself a decade ago, 10 years ago, etc., when I was pretty much new to a little bit to anime and new to the Fate Stay Night series and not knowing it very, very well. I'll let you know that right now. So after of course there was a certain scene with Iliaspio going to the city again eventually before the movie ending, and of course Shiro asking himself, what do I have to do to become a hero of justice? So yeah, like I said, I'm very sorry for being disorganized in my recap or my summary of this movie, but it just gets tough here and there. Just to remember a movie you watch for 2 hours straight and you're trying to compress it into a summary or something, and it's just you forgot where it fits where and how it's organized, etc. Forgive me for that. But like I said, I am really, really brand new to the Heaven's Feel route, though I do know what's going to happen eventually. I mean, I remember watching the Fate Stay Night 2006 one, and then I spoiled myself by looking up some information about some other stuff, etc. So yeah. But I do not know the story fully, so I'm still in for a treat. I look forward to the next movie, which will come out next year. I don't know when it's going to come out, around 2018, but hopefully I might be able to watch it and then make a video about it. But it all depends what's going to happen to me, because there's a lot of things that's going to be changing throughout 2018 possibly for me. But aside from my ridiculous personal life, like I said, the movie was pretty good. I'm looking forward to the next one. Can't wait to see what Heaven's Feel is really going to be capable of. Like I said, I'm really brand new to Heaven's Feel route, etc., and I'm looking forward to see where this is going to go from here on out. Looking really forward to it. And I'm sorry if my video became a little glitchy or flickering here and there. I'm going to fix that possibly with my other videos in the future, but yeah. So until then, like I said, looking forward to the next one. What will be my score? 8 out of 10 for the time being for part 1. Looking forward to part 2 next year. So until then, I'll see you guys in my next video. So I'm Alpha Zero, people. Have a good day. I'll see you guys next time, alright? Peace out. Bye-bye. Toodaloo!